Now on to the basics of tanking then. There's no real set rotation or anything as a tank. It's more a list of priorities and priority skills that you want to be using when they come on cooldown and when you get certain procs or stacks of certain buffs. To start with, we definitely want to be using the kinetic ward all the time. Like I said earlier, that increases shield chance massively, and it's something you never want to let drop. If it gets down to one stack, you want to refresh it, or when you can, when the cooldown resets. So pretty much pop that in all the time. Secondly, you want to be focusing on force time. That does a nice AoE damage. It also does a debuff, which decreases the damage the target deals to you, obviously increasing the amount that you'll be able to stay alive. The third skill you want to be using is Force Breach. This does some nice damage to all the targets within a certain area, and it really is handy because it does a lot of damage, a lot of threat, and that's perfect for when you need it. Telekinetic throw is another one you'll want to be using. As you can see here, as you do damage, you build up stacks of harnessed shadows. When you get that to 3 stacks, that's when you want to be using telekinetic throw. It does an awful lot of damage and creates a huge amount of threat as well. When the targets are low, you want to use your spinning strike, because that just is a huge damage move, and the more damage, the more threat. Also with project, what you want to do is actually get a stack called particle acceleration, or a buff rather, and that comes just by doing damage with other moves. Most of the time it comes quite quickly, and then as soon as you get it, you just release the force project, and then that's it. Your double strike you want to use just when you have nothing else to do. Most of your other skills have cooldowns, so you want to use it when they're off. And then lastly, with your saber strike, if you're down to 10% or less force, you want to be doing that just to rebuild your actual force powers. When you're really in trouble and you need to sort of blow a few cooldowns in order to stay alive for just a couple of seconds while the DPS gets down a mob or something like that, or there's an awful lot of pressure, we do have 2 major skills, that being resilience and deflection, at our disposal. What you want to do is, if they're force use or anything, pop resilience, because that will stop all damage to you sort of for 5 seconds, and that certainly is a lifesaver. Deflection reduces for 50% and for 12 seconds, and that definitely will give the healer a bit of time to top you up, and the DPS that time that you need to get the mobs down. If you're struggling to get aggro, we always have our taunts, and they're being mind control and mass mind control. They're quite simple to do. All you do is pop them on the target that's aggroed onto somebody else, and they'll come running to you, but you've got to make sure you do DPS them, otherwise they'll just go straight back to the other player, or most likely the healer if nobody else gets aggro. Mass mind control, again, it gets everybody within 15 meters to attack you, and it's really good for sort of mobs that are going astray, or if DPS aren't hitting your target, which always happens. So there's very few things you need to remember as a Jedi Shadow tank or a Sith Assassin tank. You just want to keep your connect ward up at all times, make sure that you've got all your DPS moves going, keep your threat nice and high, use your cooldowns wisely, and basically you shouldn't have too much of an issue with it at all. For those of you just starting out, when you get your recruit gear from the PvP vendors, simply wear that. It will get you through most of the hard mode flashpoints. If you're struggling, just drop down a little to the level 50 flashpoints, get a bit of gear from there, and you should be able to cruise through it. If you're in a guild, ask some of them to help you out, but there isn't any difficulties. I had no problem with my recruit gear and a decent healer going through the hard mode. Now I'll put some of those skills into practice in a little dungeon just to show you how it's done. And here's another major advantage. Would go into any random one, and there you go, an instant queue. and that's what we like to see. Okay, to start with, we'll just be making some fairly simple pulls here. We got into quite an easy dungeon. To start with, we just got a big mob. We'll just pull him out the way here with our first pull, a skill that I didn't talk too much about, basically because we'll have... You don't use it too often in the group pulls, it's only for the odd pull that you will be getting something towards you. So just focus on the main stats. Your slow time, your project when you've got the buffs, and again I've only got 2 stacks but I don't have too much else to do. And then we want to be doing a spinning strike. And most of the time you'll have no problem keeping the adds on you. If you have any of the sort of little barrels or anything, definitely use them to your advantage. You run in there, use them as a bit of DPS, slow time, hit that guy. Someone CC'd that for me, so it's very handy. You want to throw, and then you've got some of the turrets up here. You want to make sure you grab the aggro on those, just because they will kill your healer. I've got a pretty decent healer with me, fortunately, so I don't need to worry. But that's kind of it. Force breach. If I want to get pressurized, I just pop them back, buy myself some time. But in this, I don't need to worry. And again, we start with slow time on him, force breach, and we've got project, and then telekinesis throw, and that's a perfect start to that fight. And after that, it's just a matter of keeping the aggro on you. Now I'll show you a boss here. Our healer went in and pulled, so I had to pick it up quickly, taunt it, run in, get as much DPS out of it as I can. Everyone's taking out the turrets for me, they know what to do. You don't need to concern yourself with the smaller mobs on the whole, unless they get on the healer. What you also want to do is pop on guard at times, because that will just help your healer out a lot. And if they go down, you'll go down. It's as simple as that. So a telekinesis throw when I have the 3 stacks. Now a slow down, so I can use spinning strike. Slow time. Project, and then throw again with 2 stacks, and he goes down. We're a bit too good geared for this, I think, at the moment, but that's not a problem. With large groups of mobs, especially ranged ones, it's a lot harder to pull them. You might want to try a bit of line of sight or something, as sometimes that does work. Pull them towards you, and then you can AoE them down, or at least get a move that does AoE. But on the whole, it is a lot harder, because especially if you don't tell people, they won't know what you're doing and they might still hit. So you've got to be careful. Thanks for watching. Bye!